Aporia ASMR when?
And so the Easter event.
Hell yeah. No, we need to know about the Easter event. We've actually already had questions, but yeah, I mean, we can roll right into it if you'd like, or if you'd like to maybe go into what you wanted to share. You said there's a lot of stuff. If you want to do that first.
We're gonna ease into this. We're gonna ease into this because I just ran downstairs, and as you might assume, not the best physical shape.
Are you saying you're winded?
No, I kid. Cloudy head, long day. Excited to be here though. Look at all of our friends. 115 people. I love you guys so much. Okay, so yeah, let's go ahead and look at the list that we have first.
So we only have one in here, but we have I have the same thing that we use every week as well, and people have already been piling up there. But
that's even better.
Figured we'd start here. I'll read it out loud when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. Zegzag asks, with the introduction of the negative MR debuff added to the Flux staff for Magician Wizards, Necros are now the only pure caster without some sort of negative MR debuff available to them. Magic being part of their dot lines, could we see the possibility of adding a negative MR debuff to their Scent of Terrace AA line possibly? Thanks for the consideration.
Zegzag. Thank you. Love that. So I've got two answers to this because I want to give you kind of some insight into how we make these decisions. So in a vacuum, right? Like if I was balancing Necro by themselves, I would say, yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. Flavorful, we could make it work, not a problem. But because their debuff line stacks with everything else, all that does is further enforce the negative MR stacks that are already available, and that would get pretty silly. So I would say if you are worried about MR, you should probably take some of the classes that already have it or focus on heroic charisma. But I do appreciate the question.
Fair. Let's see here. Sindari asks, when can we expect a monk rebalance?
You know, asking the hard-hitting questions out the gate.
It is a tough one.
That's rough. I mean, that's an intense question. So monk, as you may know, just wildly imbalanced as it is, right? Like having that 100 hands effect 3 times, so you're actually hitting, 150% faster. So basically you just machine gun your fists. It's pretty OP.
Do you attack?
You're gonna nerf it.
Do you like break the space-time continuum with your fists and actually kill things before it even spawns, and because it's just so fast?
Yeah, there's an opportunity, right? Like if you stack other things with it, that you actually swing so fast that your DZ resets. So it's pretty OP.
Wow, that would be a great build to farm sleeper Augs with.
Yeah, that would be. Yes, I'm not reading that out loud, but yeah, it would be.
Oh God, yeah. All right. How are you doing? Are you eating well? Are you getting plenty of sun? Says D's Games TTV.
D's, you always come at me with the questions that make me feel like you care about me as a person. And darn it, I appreciate it. I am doing well. I'm trying to find a better work-life balance, and I think I'm doing a good job on that. And as far as getting sun, I'm very proud of myself, and it's ridiculous, but I've been going for a mile-long walk every morning, or at least before lunch. And so I am feeling much better. Appreciate the ask, man.
Okay. Vengeful Tempest asks, will there be any Easter cosmetics?
Vengeful. Not only will there be Easter cosmetics, there are Easter cosmetics that you have never seen before. And I am very excited, and I will give him a shout out on stream. Tack, TACC, one of our beloved, wonderful people here, has created a number of unique items for the hero's journey. And I think you guys are going to really like them. I may or may not have given old Broken Stoic here a little preview, and they are quite cool.
Super cool. Definitely people are going to like these. Next up, Nerd Navigator says, what can you tease about upcoming Glamourstone update timeline? Favorite Glamstone we might see?
So that's an interesting one. I believe it's all done. I believe all the new glamours are live on test. I actually had someone ask me today if a number of glamours were ever going to be in game. And so I went to test and I'm like, well, let's see if they're already there. Every single one that this individual asked me about was already on test. So I would say soon, TM, very soon.
TM means tomorrow, right?
Well, that's the fun thing. It might be. Probably not, but it might be.
Wah, wah. Charlize asks nothing. Charlize, if you had a question, just do exclamation point Q and then enter the question right after that. Loot Legends says, what are the plans for melee classes moving forward? This is sort of a follow-up to last week's big VV question about how melee builds seem sort of lackluster and seemingly always needs to include monk in the shadow of casters, etc. Seems the community and Kata agreed and had a lot to say. Any thoughts moving forward?
Okay, so first real hard-hitting question. Thank you for giving me time to warm up. I think I'm prepared now. So we talked about this last week, right? When we say melee classes, like I cannot stress this enough. And then the follow-up with how melee builds have to include monk. You realize that monk is literally half the melee classes, right? Like it's melee played a big part in these long drawn out fights that had 70 something people. That is not the case here, right? Like if that were the case, you would still be seeing melee playing a bigger part of it. But melee, like auto attack damage itself, is never going to be the thing in short duration fights. Like it's not. And now what I mean by that, the melee classes were given things to compensate for that, right? So massive backstabs, poisons, insane frenzies and discs, half weapon delay at all time, Rage of Ralos Zek, right? Like there were things given to quote unquote melee classes to make them more impactful in a shorter period of time. So there's really no way to just increase the melee contribution to DPS without completely skewing what already exists, right? So at the heart of that question, right, it almost sounds like, hey, melees need some love, right? Because that's what that says to me. Like, what are melee builds going to get? They seem lackluster. Well, it's certainly not in DPS. I can tell you that much. There are some builds that are way overperforming right now, and there are melee characters who play with some of those builds in their group and they feel bad, and that is why some of those builds will be getting toned down while others are getting a little love. But in general, melee is in a good place. It's just you're not seeing auto attack damage contribute a lot because you don't have a 30-minute fight, right? Like that's just not a thing here.
Yeah. You missed technique of Woo too. Generating 3 extra attacks every time you kick or strike, and those additional generated attacks proccing things like life taps and whatever else. There's so many different things you can do. I mean, those additional attacks used alongside Bloodlust to just automatically artificially create additional procs. Dumb.
Yeah, it's true. Oops, I'm sorry. I just kicked you 5 times in the face for 30,000 damage. I'm too weak.
Yeah. Oh, coffee. They definitely do. Proc strikes, backstabs, frenzies. They all generate procs. Oh, I literally did this yesterday while I was on testing stuff, and actually did it again today, like 2 hours before stream. Huh. I'd be curious to see what it was. What were you trying to proc? Because I can tell you, even on my Shadow Knight Shaman Rogue, I proc life taps on backstab and stuff all the time. In fact, a lot of the time it makes me live. Okay.
Big step up.
We can talk about it later. We got a really hard one here from Nathaniel. Hi, Aporia. How was your day?
Nathaniel, long time no see, friend. My day was really good. It wasn't as productive as I would have liked it to have been, but I spent some quality time with the boy, doing some yard work around the house. We're having people over this Sunday. Just trying to, get real life in order. It was good. Feel accomplished.
Nice. We got Easter coming up this weekend too. You got big Easter plans for you and your boy? And the rest of the family, obviously.
So we invited family, and sometimes we usually get a pretty good turnout, but this time we got all the turnout. So I think there's going to be like 31 people plus kids.
Too many. Good luck. Have fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa. Whoops. All right. Well, Oshavatu says, is there a way the Shaman SK Druid pets could get the 8-slot bags like the other pet classes to make them more survivable in fights?
So I would be curious what fights it is that we're talking about. So I'm pretty sure, and this is, I may be getting confused from test to live, but last patch, pets that have taunt off are no longer getting rampaged. That's correct?
That hasn't dropped yet. So
okay.
So they're whoa. So they aren't getting rampaged. That is accurate. However, other mechanics of different fights which aren't spell damage, like things like Ralos does like an AoE physical damage attack, does just scrump pets. There are and this is where, because Kata and I actually tested this quite thoroughly, where we went to everything. Like people were suggesting that they're still getting ramped, and I actually was in the belief system of that as well. And so we jumped over on test, and we actually went to each boss, and we actually parsed what damage was killing the pets. And in no case was it rampage. In every single case, it was some kind of like alternate AoE ability that they utilized that for whatever reason, it would hit the pet and essentially it would be enough to kill them.
Yeah, so I guess I mean the short of this, right, is that I do want these pets to survive, but I don't think they need the additional damage that comes with the 8-slot bag as well. So I can tell you right now that a Shaman and Druid pet with the pet power 15 focus that comes from Sleeper has survived through every fight, all the way through time. You just have to pay attention. So SK's in a weird spot, right? Like when it comes to their pet, because I feel like I know I have several SKs and several builds. They bring so much to the table. And they're such a loved pick already. Like I could see like if SK is ever in a spot where it's like, okay, we need to make them better, like I could see doing something with their pet, and I am open to that. But I would be interested to see what fights pets are dying in and why. If you've got a Muzzle of Mardu, they take 50% less spell damage. They should always have world buffs, plus you should be buffing them yourself, and you can get 15% mitigation in addition to all the buffs you're putting on them. So, you know, if I guess what I'm saying is if you want your pet to survive and actually focus on your pet surviving, it will survive. Aside from the SK pet, SK pet's kind of rough.
Get wrecked, SKs. Okay. Oshavatu says, is there a way to put a parcel person in POK?
There should be a
There's
parcel.
not.
Well, then yes.
The vendor that's normally a parcel person is just a vendor.
If you wouldn't mind, make a note for me. I can make that a thing.
Dear Aporia, definitely do not do this. Okay. Okay. Bang Bang Burley says there's rumors that we'll get custom expansions after we reach the end of DON. Is that true? Would it be remade old zones, or are we talking completely new content?
Wow. Well, so I'll say this. We are making moves and adjusting course based on lots of things. So I would say if we continue to see this many people or even more, and we're still going strong by the time DON comes out, absolutely. Absolutely. I could absolutely see that. I would say you're going to, okay. So the one thing that I know is coming, and it's coming relatively soon. We'll be launching after Live does their TLP. We are going to be launching our Dungeon Finder system, which is going to bring life to zones that most people don't spend time in a very cool and very real way. So if there was a quote unquote expansion that we would do, that could probably be an expansion in and of itself, right? So when Dungeon Finder comes out, it's going to be all the original dungeons, just in a very new and flavorful way. And I think it's going to be received very, very well. And I share that because this is indicative of the fact that we can absolutely do a custom expansion if we wanted to, but there's a lot of time between now and then, and there's a lot of things that we need to see play out in real time.
Oh yeah. Okay. Bang Bang Burley says, where be the Easter event? Need egg.
Indeed. So we do typically like launching things, events and whatnot on Fridays. This will not be one of those things. I would say expect something Easter by Sunday. and probably the majority of it. This may be an event where a part of it launches on Sunday, and then a part of it launches a week from then. We do intend to let this event run longer than normal. So you're probably going to see a 3-week minimum on Easter. It should be really fun. I'm personally excited to get all the goodies and collect all the things, and I think people are going to be really happy with what's going on.
I couldn't sleep last night because of the hype. So, yes,
I'm pretty excited.
It's going to be awesome. C. Goodman 381 asks, with the success of the server, what is something that you have been able to do / accomplish that you never thought you would be able to do? Conversely, what is something you wanted to do that you haven't been able to do so far because of the popularity?
Wow, that's a good question. Something that you've been able to do or accomplish you never thought you would be able to. Well, so I think the question itself is answered by the hero's journey, right? Like, I think having the hero's journey be received so well and affect so many people in a positive way, that in and of itself is something that I did not think would happen on this scale. And I'm very I'm humbled, I'm excited, I'm grateful, like all the things, right? Just all the positive feelings. But in terms of something you wanted to do that you haven't been able to because of the popularity, I don't know. I don't really know if there is anything. I'm pretty happy with what's been going on. I do have to, mind my P's and Q's and make sure that I don't say anything that might be misinterpreted. But honestly, I kind of conduct myself like that in general. So that hasn't been too tough for me. Good question.
Nice. Good question. Good answer. But now you have to duck because D's Game CTV comes out swinging. And now for the game question. Can wizards get their Flux staff clickies back to just wizard? Mages are potent enough and have the Mallow line. And Flux was always the real whiz epic, lasting until the Flux upgrade, then still even used to live or live, used to live maybe. So giving it to Madge as well feels like a delusion or disillusion, I'm guessing, of wizard. You're diluting it.
Interesting. So it's definitely an iconic item. It's definitely a useful item. How do I put this? So when we were first doing class balancing and looking at the reasons to pick different classes, there was a time, believe it or not, where magicians needed a little extra TLC. Not a lot, but just a little. And in some circumstances, we expanded the class usability on certain items that were both flavorful and kind of fit in the line of that class. And this was one of those items. At this point, I don't see us walking that back. Like we're 6 months into this, and in general, it's been received pretty well. And I can tell you from statistics that wizards are in no short supply. So I appreciate that. And it's good to hear that, because it reminds me that there are certain items that, really need to stay usable by that class. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
To counter that, can monks get use of it as well? And Coffee actually also wants to know if druids can get use of it as well. Can we? No.
All Flux staff with the Easter event? Broken Stoic said that?
Whoa.
No, but I love you guys.
Hello, Aporia. Any more thoughts about a clicky bag or some mechanic to make held clicky items buffs permanent? Says Erasmus.
Yes. We are working on it. As things slowly get rolled out, that is one of the things that's on the list that we've already done some testing with. We just, when it comes to adding something like that, we want to make sure it's right before it goes out, because it's not, we're not releasing things to a few hundred people or even a couple thousand. Like at this point, we have live active bodies that come through here in a week over 20,000.
I was going to say,
yeah, it's a lot of people. And we just have to do our due diligence before launching stuff. So yeah, it's going to happen. Just not sure on the timing.
did you guys break? You must have broke it, right? So what was it? 20, was it 20,000, 25,000?
Oh, I can do a quick look see.
It was a lot of goddamn people.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, so and anyone can kind of use this as a barometer, right? So not everyone is in Discord, and Discord is about to hit 20,000 unique individuals. So,
oh Jesus,
that's,
kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Charlize would like to know, can we get offline trader mode?
So I'm not completely opposed to it. Well, no, I kind of am. I'll be honest with you. Like I really get a kick out of going to Bazaar and seeing all these traders and knowing that someone took the time to set this character up as a trader. Like it's a little selfish of me, and I try not to make those decisions. But this is something that has been core to setting the hero's journey up from the beginning, right? Like just having those traders there, it just strikes a chord with me, right? Like it hits my nostalgia in a really interesting way. Now, if offline trader ever got working correctly, and I knew that it would work for the number of people we have, for the average number of database hits that we get per second, and it's not going to throw anything off, I'm willing to, relook at it.
Okay. Do you see this one I just popped up?
Interesting.
Do you want to answer that or pass?
We're gonna pass on that. That's a personal question.
Yep. D's Games TTV says, and probably my last one, what plans do you all have for making cast DD builds, Wizard? Feel good.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Oh, wait, whoa. I missed it. That was a really good opportunity. Nerf Denons. Nerf Denons, you heard it. Are we gonna nerf monks? Are we gonna nerf wizards? Nerf
all the things.
Nerf
obviously.
Paladins. Paladins are way too powerful. Can we nerf Paladins?
I think no. I need to nerf Shamans. They're way too useful right now.
Ah, goddamn Shamans.
Yep.
Ridiculousness.
Yep.
Yeah. So while we're doing the ad stuff, lots going on. I just can't believe you guys broke major thresholds for the population stuff. You guys have really buckled down on the server. The netcode stuff feels great. Since the last patch, I think the lag and everything is like reduced. I don't think I ever hit a point since the netcode update and then the like little slight patch after that. I zone lightning fast again. I don't think I've had any issues ever, no matter how many people are on the server. So yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take this opportunity to give a shout out to Ack again, but Acadius really came through. It's been everything that we wanted from the beginning. We at this point in time, so something that happened behind the scenes that I probably would have drawn attention to This week, and this is a testament to how like locked down this currently is, we swapped out one of our 4 servers and upgraded it to match the other 3. No one even knew. No one felt anything. There were no interruptions. There was no nothing. It was a literal live swap by spinning down zone servers and draining them over time. And then once that node got to 0, we put the new node in and started letting them fill back up. It was very impressive. And at this point, with the new net code and everything that we're looking at, we can probably get to 6,500 people on our server at one time, which is huge.
That's insane. Also, Coffee says that's when his hardcore character died. He noticed. You know what? They actually chose that exact moment in time, Coffee. They pulled up your stream and they were watching you and they were like, right now. I
Our
heard
modest fellowship expands. Praise
Hurricane,
the
thank you for the sub. Okay, we are back from ads, so we can revisit the D's Games TTV, and probably my last one. What plans do you all have for making cast DD builds, Wizard, feel good?
And my response to that was, we're going to be nerfing Denons. So you're going to be wanting to cast those Wizard nukes because you're not going to use Denons for single target DPS anymore. To double dip on 780% singing scaling, as well as all the spell benefits. And that's going to hurt. I know it will. But I promise to do it in a way that won't make you hate life. Promise.
Hey, does anybody remember when Reyna got kicked out of my channel? What? It's weird. Just real quick. So it sounds like bards are getting some love, but I really like, I want to be selfish for a second. I really like this one here. Jonat says $100 to donate to server or 10 gifted subs to Broken and 50 to the server.
Always. So let me be very, very clear. What we want more than anything is for everyone involved in this project to succeed. So hit those gifted subs, baby. Do it. Not even a question. And that actually dovetails in nicely to Magnus. Go ahead and look down towards the bottom on your screen there. We can hit that one real quick.
This one here?
Yep. Since we're talking about money.
Yeah.
Let's talk about money.
Magnus says, are we going to be moving into a paid subscription model? LOL. But seriously, with the turnout and popularity, is there plans for possible push towards patronage? Holy smokes, TX Hurricane gave out 5 community subs. TX Hurricane gave out 1 sub. Holy smokes, boys and girls, thank you so much. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Love that. I love seeing that. So first of all, thank you for
about tree fitting.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Holy smokes.
All the people.
Jonat with the 10 and Rern with the 5. Thank you guys so much. Much appreciated. Guys, kick ass. Thank you so much, guys.
Love it. So no, obviously we will never charge for the hero's journey. Look at all these people.
Jesus Christ. Pizza in here with the 10 gifted subbies. Obese in here with the 5 gifted subbies. Thank you guys so much. I do appreciate you. I love you guys. You guys, hold on one second.
Love it.
Another loyal devotee.
Hell yeah, boys and girls. Thank you so much. Dang, and 1,000 biddies from Orog.
Well,
bro, Sophiana. for you. Sophiana is very, very committed to role play. Let me just tell you, role play is in my chat and many other people's chat
This
all day
is
long.
The dankest dungeon.
I love that. Gotta love the role play. Gotta love the role play.
A kind
Good
gesture.
gravy. So did we said a no, but not only a no, a hell no, or
Oh yeah, no, I didn't even get an opportunity to really like answer the question, but no. So the bottom line is we will never charge for the hero's journey.
A kind gesture.
This was done by us for everyone. And while I
Truly,
appreciate
this is
the want
dankest dungeon.
for patronage, we have some very just wonderfully giving people. I have not had to pay for this server since we went live. So don't worry about that. Don't feel beholden to do that. Like we're genuinely so excited for all of you to be here. And it's just this is, and behind the scenes, this is just, it's doing so much for so many people. Just opportunities, people that have been working on the EQ-EMU project getting recognized by potential employers. People starting to network and starting to recognize the good that other people do. It's such a great thing that's happening. So while it, I appreciate the sentiment, there are good things happening for a lot of people, and that's what it's all about. So thanks for the question.
huge in 2025? That is amazing. Amazing
New
news.
subscriber arrives. It fills you
Where
with
we're being asked to throw
determination.
money at everything. Okay. Hextile is asking why nerf, why not buff around the Bard stuff. I don't know if you want to elaborate more into that or just leave that be.
You shouldn't be doing 28,000 DPS with an AoE Bard song on a single target boss. Period. Like that's just period.
Man, they really are going to blame me for this one.
That's fine.
I literally said that on stream. I was like, I think the only way to balance this build out is to nerf DDD. I was like, it's just doing too much damage. Anywho. Oh, no, we already did that one. Okay, Bang Bang Burly. People are concerned about how melee builds are scaling now, but moving forward into expansions, there is a danger that caster damage will not scale as weapons continue to get better. But spell damage continues to be capped. Is there a future proofing that will happen eventually to make sure that casters will be able to keep up with item bloat?
Yeah. So good question. And I actually have a really exciting answer to this. So when we launched this project, there were certain things that we had to, certain rules that we had to abide by because we didn't know how to do it any other way. And this is actually something that Kata figured out this week, which is how to change the cap based on the classes an individual has picked for each individual stat. So it's not a knob we're turning right now because we're happy where things are overall. But yeah, that's something that we can definitely do and look at. And I promise you, I will not let any class lag too far behind for too long. For sure.
Boom. Vengeful Tempest asks, can we make our attuned items able to be shared to our alts without having to use EOM or spend loads of plat?
No. You can farm whatever you want for your alts. You can buy whatever you want for your alts, but the stuff that you have attuned is attuned to you. It's just, this is something that has been done in other games and has worked well in terms of keeping economies healthy and in terms of keeping people buying things from that economy. So that is not something that will be changing.
You can actually use plat to buy EOM and then use the EOM to unattune items. You can even buy the Unattuner with plat. Although right now, I'm not in game right now, but last I looked, EOM is up to 1,900, almost 2,000, which I believe is 500 plat under the attuner cost if you were to buy just the attuner with flat plat. So you can actually get it at a discount right now. Just saying.
Yeah, and that is something that's been brought up before. The reason that we have an either or, plat or EOM, is because, you know, we want to keep that viable for all people. So
Regulates it. Yep. Regulator. Ooh, choo choo. The train is up. Guys, I would like to say thank you again so much for that hype train. You guys are awesome. 42 bloody subs. Holy cow. You guys are sexy and awesome. Thank you all so very much. I appreciate you. Candyman wants to know any chance to have just one vendor per class to sell all spells 1 through 60. Too much searching around for spells leveling up.
Huh. No. So there are certain client limitations, and having that default list be too large is actually problematic. And I would rather each class have 2 vendors than some classes have 1 and others have 2 and others have 3. It's just a better experience when it's more uniform like that. In terms of searching around for it, though, I mean, not for nothing, I took a lot of time to put things in their place, right? So, like, if you find the guild leader, the spell vendors are going to be to the left or the right, and they're there.
I don't know if you did this on purpose, but if you look at most of the spell vendors and their positioning too, it's actually like the certain level is here, like the lower level one is here, and then the higher level one is here. Like it's like slightly back and to the left. With almost every single class vendor, it's that way. So just put it out there. Let's see here. Nerd Navigator channels his wise sage mode. What is the question we should be asking but don't know to ask? Oh, Jesus.
I don't think my brain can handle that meta of a question right now. I'll be completely honest with you. Actually, I think in general, you guys ask some really good questions. And I think because we have the community involved in so much of the development process, there's nothing really like the most hush-hush thing we're working on right now is the Dungeon Finder. And I've talked about that quite a bit.
Quite a bit, yeah. Yep. Torn Bracelet. For those of us that hate doing the meta builds and went with full melee, i.e. Pally, Warrior, Bard, is there anything down the pipeline to help us kill a little faster?
Wow. So there's a lot to unpack there, Torn. There's a lot to unpack there. So number one, the fun thing is when you talk to people about meta builds, it depends on who their friends are as to what they consider meta, which is pretty hilarious. It also depends on which theory crafting threads that they frequent. I can say right now, God, there are probably 16 different builds that people are gravitating towards, flocking to. And there are new builds every single day that are cropping up that people are just like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. And honestly, a lot of the times it is. And it's really cool to see. And then as it starts to grow and more people figure it out, then it becomes like, oh, well, this is the build you should do if you want to do X, Y, or Z. And then eventually, if something's overtuned, like we're about to see with Denon's, it's going to get nerfed. And then a week from now, people are going to be playing the OMG, didn't you hear about the blah, 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 blah. And, you know, that's the way that it goes. So yeah, it's this cycle, right? So yes, some things get nerfed. That's intentional. some things are going to get changed. They're going to be overpowered. That's also intentional most of the time. It's okay for things to be cyclical. It's okay to try new things. It's okay to take classes in different directions. But in terms of the second part of this question, which I find is hilarious, full melee. This goes back to melee means different things to different
people. Yeah.
I would never consider a Pally Warrior Bard as a pure melee build. That is a tanky build. The reason you're not killing fast is because you don't die. And I feel like that's just kind of the decision, that you made when picking that class comp. Like, you don't die. You do not die. There's no way that you are dying as a Pally Warrior Bard. And I love that for you. And I think that is so cool. But, the tankiest class combo probably shouldn't be the highest DPS combo. But there are things coming down the pipe that will increase, different facets of different classes. So, hang tight, play with a couple different things, branch out. Alts are fun.
It's also not like one thing that I really think is important that a lot of people lose grasp of is you don't have to be the highest damaging build or the highest tanky build. Like, play what's fun to you. Like, use what is interesting to you individually. Like, there's no reason that, you can go out there and you can chase the meta all day. And yes, you'll be blowing through money trying to buy the best augs and the best things, only to, yes, likely have your build adjusted shortly thereafter and see your investments squandered. But that's a conscious decision too. Like, if you want to play that way, then by all means play that way. But at the same time, understand that, like, play what's fun for you. Like, just go out there, build your build however you want. We're going to start a day of the week, Aporia, that we're actually going to have people who are submitting these builds that most people would consider non-meta or not great. And we're going to actually talk about, like, things that they can do to, like, bring that build to the next level. Maybe achieve or overcome some of the adversity that they're running into with these, just builds that people are making for fun and enjoying.
Heck yeah.
Let's see here. Streamin' Chef says, just started playing THJ and my Bazaar portal is bringing me to EC Tunnel after I used the Soul Binder there. Okay, that's a pretty easy one. So basically, your Bazaar portal is bringing you to EC Tunnel because you basically bound yourself to that one. You can use Tyrell and then say Luckland to him and then say the Bazaar and then click the map. And then when you do that, it'll take you to the Bazaar and just bind yourself back in there or change your point to that location, if that's where you choose to have it set up. Mystical Willoughby says, why should a non-pet class rely on their pet in any way? They're barely effective at the minor tasks we give them. Why should we spend dev time on something? I don't know if that's really a question, Mystical. I'm guessing this is in reference to the shamans and druids.
A new subscriber.
For two reasons.
Come,
Number
steel
one,
yourself. We are
different
building an
changes take
army.
different amounts of time, depending on the individual. I personally have done all the tuning for every level of pet for every rank of pet power over the last 3 years. So I'm very familiar with how it works. So making those changes to Shaman and Druid pet were actually quite simple and didn't take much time at all. And it was something that was appreciated by a large number of people. So that's why.
Boom, boom. Hey, boss. Are there long-term plans to urge people towards Zem bonus zones to leveling AA outside of the popular Lower Gook 30, Natix 43, Dragon Necropolis 56 path? Says Foliex.
You know what's funny is when I level my characters, I don't actually spend time in any of those zones. I think there's this there's this want to maximize your time, which I totally understand. But trying to make other zones appealing to people is something that we've been trying to tackle. We've talked about having like a rotating Zem bonus, and I do think we will have that. But it's not. It's just something that we have to sit down and actually say, like, hey, do we want to do this, and explicitly how do we do it? And it's a little weird, right? Because we can't just do like pick a random zone in this level bracket or a random zone in this level bracket, because not everyone has all expansions unlocked, and we don't want to push people towards leveling in these zones and then have those zones be things that people can't access within that level bracket. It just feels bad. So yes, I'm totally open to it. I think it's cool. We even talked about having something where like you could pay a certain amount of plat to like shuffle it, right? To like kind of move it around every so often. But I could see it happening. It's just not a high priority right now.
Cool. LMB Kid says, are the Shaman's rumored changes happening soon or being talked about? Kata had hinted about it last Q&A, and now it's been crickets.
Sure. Yeah. So Shamans right now, and this might not be all of it, but I can tell you on tests, Shamans have 2 buffs, one that affects their damage output and one that affects their healing. And I think people will be pretty happy with these changes. It might not be everything that they need, but it'll put them pretty close. And in terms of timing, I believe that these changes are going to come over the next time we do a content migration, which I believe needs to happen for Easter. So it might be happening as soon as Sunday. I would say by the latest next weekend, but yes, it's coming, as well as some other changes for other classes. I would say small but impactful.
Good. Your Bazaar, will there be any bonus XP added with the Easter event? If so, will that last 3 weeks as well?
Oh yes, there will be XP. Yes.
Ooh. We do like experience, especially when it comes in bonus.
Oh yes. My.
Vengeful Tempest wants to know, will all players, regardless on progression, be able to get all Easter event goodies?
Vengeful. Good question. And one that I carefully considered when we were deciding what to do. The answer is yes, they will be. And actually, now that you mentioned that, there is something that I need to make a note of in the QA real quick. You just reminded me of something very important, friend. Give me 2 seconds to write something down.
Do. Yes, cool mojo. DDD is really getting nerfed. It's not, honestly, it's not quite as crazy as you think it might be. So the problem with DDD, or one of the things that was making it so crazy, was like the fact that you could put multipliers on top of multipliers on top of multipliers for it. And that's, you know, a little excessive.
And not only that, I'll share a little more. Not only that, so every single spell in the game, which DDD is for some reason considered, has things that it must obey, rules that each spell must obey, right? So you've got the minimum damage it can do, but you're also supposed to have a maximum damage. Guess what DDD did not have? It had no maximum damage set. Guess what else it didn't have? It didn't have a formula set. to interpret that base damage. So all of those additional bonuses that were stacking that shouldn't have been, they were doing it to a degree that was impossible for any other spell. So no bueno.
Bingo. Sai says, newer player and loving the server. Shout out to Broken for the super helpful videos. How do you balance nostalgia versus innovation? Do you ever feel torn between the two? Tamis.
Constantly torn between the two. There are so many really cool things that we could do, but they just don't feel right. And I've from day one, like 4 years ago at this point, I want it to feel the way that we all expect it to feel while still being fresh and new and good. Like this isn't EQ. This is the hero's journey. But at the same time, it's a familiar journey, right? So it is definitely difficult to balance sometimes between those two, but I'm gonna keep juggling it.
Boom, boom. These games rolling up in with another. Can zoning to Bazaar put the person into a random Bazaar instance or remember their instance preference, i.e. the last Baz they zone sharded to, so that people can pick the lesser populated ones instead of hitting the lowest numbered instance that isn't full?
Yeah, so 2 responses to that. So we are actively working to make, when you use Bazaar in a group with your friends in a zone, it prompts everyone, and if they go with you, everyone ends up in the same shard. That's the first change that we're making. The second change is, you are correct. What's supposed to happen is it is supposed to put you in the least populated instance, but currently it's putting you in the lowest numbered instance. So those are actually bugs that we are aware of and we will be fixing.
Hell yeah. Are you aware that people online thingy for the patcher is always reading 0? Says Pizza.
Sir, you may have a bugged version of the patcher. Mine is currently showing 4,129 players online.
Only.
Which, it's funny, we've worked with this a lot and it's never quite right. The displayed number is usually 50 to 100 lower than what's actually online. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. So to get, I would download a different, the newest version of the patcher. Something probably happened where you got stuck on like a bugged version of the patcher. So yeah.
Cool. I like this one. Xenofall asks, Twitch drops going to special claims when? So Twitch drops are basically when a developer works alongside Twitch to create, like, when you have watch time in someone's stream, over time you earn different unlocks that you get bonuses in the game. Sometimes it's like XP potions, sometimes it's just cosmetics and things like that. Sometimes it's titles. It's basically most of it is non-power related stuff, just like special little things that you get for watching streamers.
So let me say this. We love our streamers. I do spend a lot of time with Broken and Vivi, but only because they were the first and they are wonderful. But if you are on the Hero's Journey Twitch team, I very much want to support all of you. So kind of like how we did with the titles already, I am very much open to exploring what else that looks like. Very much, I'm very open to that. Yeah, for sure. I love you guys, and it's a wonderful symbiotic relationship. So we can definitely work on that.
Hell yeah. Solka asks, thoughts, can we add a clicky duration AA that shouldn't add player power, but a little bit of nice feels to spend AA on? Thoughts on we add a clicky duration AA?
I feel like there's a class that gets that.
No. They all get one. It's extended ingenuity. I think it's only a couple of levels right now.
Yeah. But to that point though, we are working on something that's probably going to be a bag in which you can put your clickies, and those clickies will be automatically recast type of a thing. But probably won't be seeing another AA. In terms of needing something to spend an AA on, I am going to put in an AA dump in the form of a firework, just so you people can have something to click. And the firework looks really, really cool. Just throwing it out there.
Is it a picture of a pearl necklace?
Yes. No.
Is it? Never mind. I'm going to go to a dark place with that. It's going to be a funny place, but it was going to be a dark place. Vengeful Tempest wants to know, can we have more events other than holidays? Cosmetics equal win.
So Vengeful, you know, if we had the resources of a full gaming studio, 1000%. I love events. I live off events. But it is a stretch to even do the events that we are doing along with the development roadmap that we have laid out. So I would love to be able to do that. But what I can promise you is that we will continue to do holiday events and continue to make them fun. And then if a day ever does come where we have more people, more resources, I would love to do more events. I think events are wonderful. So.
All right, we got a tough one here. Now, if you answer this wrong, we might have to fight. Rostam wants to know, does pineapple belong on pizza?
Wow. Asking questions to get me canceled. So listen to the whole answer before you judge me. They do not belong on pizza. However, I love them on my pizza. A good Hawaiian, but no, it does not belong on pizza. But it's delicious on pizza.
It goes on pizza.
Just saying. Now I want a pizza. Now I want a Hawaiian.
We have a guy who owns a pizza place here. You'll just have to find your way up north. And if you're going as far as Pennsylvania, you know, I might as well go down to Pennsylvania as well. All I'm saying. But
it's so cold up there.
It snowed. We had a huge snowstorm actually, just like a day or two ago. Sophiana wants to know, do you have a combo you would recommend for new players? And do you yourself have a favorite combo?
Man, my favorite combo has changed so many times since launch. And in terms of new players, I've got a shtick that I really do stick to, right? and that is pick a tank, pick a DPS, pick a healer. I literally don't care what combination new player picks. If they can pick the class they like the most, right? And that's usually what I say. What's your favorite tank? What's your favorite tank? Pick that. What's your favorite DPS? Pick that. What's your favorite healer? Pick that. You will be able to clear 2 Velius by yourself without issue. Period. Right? Most will be able to clear through Velius without issue. 90% of them will be able to clear through Luckland without issue. Right? Like, it's what I want more from a new player is to like the classes that they picked individually, because if you liked those classes before, you're going to love them together, right? And it's just enough time to learn the game, learn the server, figure out the ins and outs, and then make your roll.
Ranger is my favorite tank. Did I pick wrong? According to Jeff, Jeff Butler, one of the original creators of EverQuest, yes, you picked wrong because some guy pissed off some other guy, and so Rangers suck at tanking. So yes, yeah, you picked wrong. Waldstein would like to know, are there plans for legendary gear start to be attuned to pets the same as players so they cannot be shared between alts?
Val, I'll be honest with you on this one. So this is a conversation that we have had in private. There are reasons that I feel that they should, and there are reasons that I feel that they shouldn't. There are certain circumstances that make me want them to be attuned. There was a point in time where a few people had literally, when Minion Masters were completely broken, they had like 10 of them on a single account and would literally just do a boss, drop the bag in, switch to the second character, do the boss, drop the bag in, do the next character. Like, that type of gameplay loop is kind of icky, right? But I also don't want to penalize everyone because some people are being a little ridiculous with it,
Seg hit the nail. He hit the nail on the head with that one. Yeah. Wherever VV is, wherever he is drunken on a beach somewhere, his ears are ringing. Oh, God. Loot Legends wants to know, for those of us who enjoy doing wild non-meta builds and experiment with multiple characters, are there plans to give stacking AA item level bonuses beyond the veteran, since that tends to be a huge stalling point after 3+ characters in, and if we end up hating it, ways to change multiple classes at once for EOM or otherwise without waiting on a timer?
That's a lot of words, Loot Legends. Let me break this down because I feel like there's a couple different things here. Okay, so number one, love non-meta experimental. In fact, 90% of the characters that are made are experimental, truly. I'm a little confused at what the stalling point after 3+ characters in is. I don't know what that means in terms of veteran AA. I really don't. So feel free to ask a follow-up question to that. But to answer the timer thing. So, okay. Follow me, friends. Why do we have cooldowns at all? Right? Like, why can't I run, whatever time 1 billion times in one day? Like, if I can do it, I should be able to do it. The problem is because some of you will. And I'm not saying that I have to put guardrails for your own free will. So I'll just say for my own, if I could do the same thing over and over and over with no cooldown, I probably would. And that's not very healthy. It's not very fun. It leads to burnout, and it leads to turning something that you enjoy doing into work. And we don't like that. Like, I don't, if you could just change your classes all the time that you wanted, whenever you want, like, would there be more EOM, and would that be kind of a good thing for some reasons? Like, maybe, kind of, but I would be more concerned about the fact that you're not going to take the time to learn the classes that you picked to see what that combo could really do. I'm also concerned that you would get to a point where, like, oh, I lost to this boss, this class sucks. And then we get into this negative feedback loop of nothing is really good because I'm doing poorly. So ask the first part of that question in a different way that my smooth brain can understand. And that's the answer to the second part.
I love this story that you used to tell a fair amount about the guy who was basically like, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, thank you so much for having limitations on how much I can run these. Because if you didn't, I would do it more. My life would be in shambles.
Yeah, that's a real thing. That's a real thing.
Okay. All right. We got two solo self-found questions back to back here. So let's just group these together here. We got One Morning Coffee asking, no one has asked much about solo self-found or hardcore tonight. I don't have any real questions, but do you have a guess as to how long it will take after launch of those modes for someone to kill Quarm on solo self-found hardcore?
So I'm going to give the cynical real answer to this. It depends on what build is broken to what degree when we launch it. So if there is someone currently sitting on a build that I don't know about that for some reason is pulling like 80k DPS and they're just not saying anything and they're sitting on it, you know what? They might do it in a day. They might do it in a day. And that's, there was a point in time where I would have tried to be that person, right? I would try to be that person. And it's okay to do that. It's okay to want that. But I'm going to say this. When we launch this and it's awesome and SSF HC is out and people are just loving it, don't let the person that just gamed the system to the nth degree, who did it in a day or two, dissuade you from enjoying the journey yourself, because a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into it, and it's going to be really fun. So just enjoy that. And also, that person, I might just nerf that build without it going into the changelog, and that would suck for a hardcore character. Don't be that person.
I already get blamed for this shit already. All right. Okay. For solo self-found, will there be changes to things such as fleeting Quiver? The recipe currently requires a vial of distilled mana, which needs an enchanter to make. Or is the answer just go enchanter as well?
Wow. This is another one of those questions that gives me pause. Like, I love that. I love that the recipe for fleeting Quiver is playing into your class choice. I love that. My real answer to the question is make an alt. Enchanters are fun.
You know what? Screw it. I'm just going to throw this out there for Vicious. He wants to know, will there be a separate Bazaar for hardcore people?
No. So Okay, so this is an opportunity to explain how we're doing it, right? So there are 3 modes that are going to be coming out all at the same time. Hardcore is one of those modes. If you make just a hardcore character, right? The only option you pick is hardcore. The only difference, right, is that when you die, you're dead. You're still going to be able to buy stuff from the bazaar, interact with other players, do all the things, except you're now a hardcore character, right? Yes. So, well, okay, hold on. That's if you only pick hardcore, right? Remember, these are stackable modifications that you will be able to pick. So yeah, if you make a regular hardcore character, yeah, you can use Bazaar, you can do whatever you want. If you want the real challenge, right, and you do the whole thing, which is hardcore solo self-found, well then no, you can't access the Bazaar, you can't access traders, you can't trade anyone, you can't pick up anything off the ground that doesn't spawn there, you can't buy stuff off of merchants that isn't on the default list. You will be doing it by yourself, and it will be difficult. But if you choose not to, go hardcore, that's up to you.
So, and an orc, a Zerker epic. Got it.
Love it.
Jesus. Okay. Will the 1.5s and 2.0s be repeatable, and can we keep one of each?
That's a good question. Repeatable? Probably. But you'd probably have to do the whole thing. So the way that we're moving towards quest buckets is you have to complete the whole quest, and then you can start the whole quest over again. So you're not going to be stacking up 10 pieces to do all 10 at the same time. Like that's not going to happen. But yes, they should be repeatable.
Yeah, I think there's only a couple that have the same problem where it's like you have to play the faction game again when you redo it.
Yeah, so like Demi-Lich Skullcap. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
All right. This one looks like it might be a little bit of a doozy. Kinnock THJ, love your name. I understand that you see DDD as an issue in single target. Are there any plans to make Bard Screams or Whiz Nukes themselves more appealing for single target to compensate?
Well, you're already taking time to cast DDD, right? If DDD is no longer worth casting in a single target scenario, then there is something else that will be worth casting, right? And I'm not 100% positive because it really depends on the build on what that falls to. But I mean, nukes are worth casting. Period.
Do you mind if I talk a little bit about DDD?
You know what? You go right ahead.
Okay. You guys are reading it as like DDD is just going to fall into fucking like utter trash can land and not going to be worth using ever again. It's actually not that bad. I went and poked around with it, and it's really, you can still do. You can, for those of you earlier who were saying, "Oh my God, I'm not going to be able to like clear Plane of Fire in one pull," you can still clear Plane of Fire in one pull. It's not as bad as you think it is. It's just not extreme like it is now.
Yeah, and that's and that was taken into consideration, right? Like we still want it to be a viable AoE tool, but it needs to not be the single best single target nuke in the game. That's silly.
Yeah, you shouldn't be doing 10% of a raid target's health in one hit.
So following up on something that Vicious just said, sounds like we need a separate hardcore server so we can do group hardcore and have a fresh economy. So then it sounds like what you want is self-found hardcore. So you will be able to trade in self-found hardcore, but not solo. Wait, there's something wrong with what I'm thinking.
So
No, actually, that's a good point. So at no point in time will you be trading stuff on your hardcore character unless you are just hardcore, and then you have access to basically everything. I think what most people are looking at is self-found hardcore, where you can still group with your friends and whatever drops you all have, access to, but you have to be there when it drops. You're not going to be trading other people for that gear, right? So yeah.
Yeah, so Jig is, I think people just want a non-solo self-found hardcore that doesn't have infinite cheap items to restart from the SC economy. Then don't opt not to do that for yourself. Like, it's that easy. I mean, there are people who are doing solo self-found and hardcore and self-found builds and challenges right now without the infrastructure being in the game. I don't see any reason why you can't just continue to do that.
Yeah, and the problem is this, right? So I totally hear where Vicious is coming from, because like there is this excitement, on a launch of something where you've got access to all these different things. But here's the problem, right? So let me tell you what the problem with that is. So let's say we did, right? Like, okay, so you know what? Hardcore is going to be its own server. Everyone's hardcore, but you have, the full economy, trading, yada, yada, yada. Within a week, you're going to have that loot available anyways, right? Like, it's only going to have the effect that you're looking for that group or two that is out in front, right? Because as soon as there's like 2 weeks into this, like, a lot of this gear is going to just be available there too, right? Because we've, like, not for nothing, we have talked very seriously about having another server for these different rule sets, and it doesn't make sense for the long-term viability, both of the hero's journey and the experience that people are seeking. So the whole idea was to allow these modes to be available in the best way possible on this server, right? So my whole thing is, if you want the real hardcore experience, that is solo, that is self-found, that is hardcore. If you want to do hardcore with friends, that is self-found hardcore. If you want to just, see as far as you can get on a hardcore character and just do the things, then you're just hardcore. But starting up a new server right now just for hardcore so that people can, like, buy and trade things that doesn't have 6 months worth of stuff, that's a TLP, right? That's seasonal. And I can say, with who knows what's going to happen within the next 6 months to a year, maybe we do have a seasonal server. Maybe that's a thing that we do. But I'm pretty against splitting up the server as it is. Like, if there is a physical way that we can keep everyone on the same server, we are going to do that, for sure.
Oh yeah. Apparently, Pizza's developed a pet name for you. Appykins. Will there be an alternate currency and armor item vendors for Dungeon Finder like Eldon and Dragons of Norath?
So we're not 100% on that. We've talked about alternate currency, but I don't know if we're going to do alternate currency and using that to get these items, or if we're just going to have the items themselves, right? Like, I'm not too sure what that looks like. So just assume glamour stones, illusions, mounts, titles, stuff like that. Not sure if we want them to be tied to specific dungeons, or maybe some things only come from specific dungeons, but there's also a currency. Not 100% on that yet. but you'll know more as it gets closer. Also, you are the third person to ever call me Appykins. So
Third. Wow.
there we go.
Now we need to know who the first two were. No Skills Noob. First question. Will there ever be an update that allows your friend list to be account wide? Second question. Will you make some of the epic particle effects look brighter like Cleric, Bard, Shaman, and Druids so their epics stand out a little more?
Huh. So, okay, so two things. There are some people that would love an account-wide friends list. There are some people that would not like an account-wide friends list, right? There are people who have different personas. There are people who like to role play. There are people who sometimes just want to log on and do things without being bothered, right? So that's I like that idea. Like for me personally, I would like account-wide friends, but I know a lot of people that wouldn't. So probably not. The second question, so we have a few people that do great graphics work, but they are working on other things. So I wouldn't imagine that those will go back and get touched. But I do appreciate the question.
Sin Fallon wants to know, what day is best to reach out to you? I sent a message on Discord last week about trying to help and didn't get a response. I didn't want to poke again in case you were with the family. Bro.
So, number one, thank you for, taking my non-response and choosing to respect that I might be really busy. I appreciate that. Second part to that, I saw your question when you asked it. And here's the thing. I get so many messages during the course of a day now that messages are getting pushed off if I don't check within about 12 hours. That's how many messages I get a day. So that's insane to me. And I apologize that you were one of the ones that got missed. You have my full approval to send me another message. And also, if for some reason I managed to miss that, you go right ahead and message me the next day. And because I have no qualms with telling someone, hey, listen, I appreciate you reaching out, but that's not something I can do right now. I have no qualms in doing that, right? Like I'm big on time management. I will do what I can with what I have. Sometimes I just can't. So don't hesitate to reach out. The worst that I can say is I can't right now.
Cool. Charlize says, can we lower respawning cooldown from 2 hours to 30 minutes? Sometimes I want to join friends that just logged, but I'm locked out for 2 hours.
When we're at ads.
We are at ads. Goddamn ads.
Would you terribly mind if I went and got a drink during ads?
No. Go for it. Yeah, get up, walk around. All of you guys should get up, walk around.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, guys, I will say, like, for those of you who are like worried about the Bard thing, so what you're capable of doing with DDD currently in the game is really, really super excessive, like really stupid, super excessive. And it has to do with like the multipliers all stacking on top of each other. It's really not going to be that bad. It's still absolutely usable. It's good. It's just not like crazy. And then the solo self-found stuff is actually kind of interesting. I'm actually really looking forward to those game modes, and I can definitely understand why you would not want the same economy, because then you kind of wind up with the same thing. Like, I don't know if you guys have heard, like, played on some of the other emulated servers, but they have a hardcore system and they have leaderboards. And to some extent, you can buy items off from the Bazaar on those servers where you can like at level 1 you can basically have 100,000 hit points, and that kind of feels bad, man, right? Like kind of makes the process disingenuine. It's an interesting peril.
Okay, I'm back.
It's really interesting getting a lot of questions that we haven't seen before today, which I like.
And not only a lot of questions, but honestly, I think if you didn't close questions, that this could probably run till midnight.
Yeah, that's what I kind of observed, and that's kind of why I was like, okay, it's 9:40 and people are rolling in like 5 new questions every like minute or so, and I was like, I'm just gonna end this here, and then I figure we can go through the rest of what we have. Some of these are really easy, some of them are a little bit more in depth, but like for the most part, I think some of these can be like 30-second, a minute answers, and then some of them are a little more like, intense. But
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, picking right back up. Lowering respawn time. So, I'm not against that. So in the beginning, we kind of carried over settings that we had previously before we had non-respawning working. So I could see us lowering that. I have to talk to Ak and Kata about potential impact of like more instances basically being up, but I'm pretty sure we have them clearing out in a really good way now, so that might be doable. So we can make a note of that one, and we can see if that's feasible for us now. Oh, it'll be fine. Okay.
You could theoretically, I like back end assuming, but theoretically, as long as it was like 11 minutes, right? So you couldn't burn one and then immediately spawn another to get faster spawns.
Yeah, no, Solka, they're not talking about the respawn timers. They're talking about the respawning instance cooldown.
Yep. Yeah, so as long as it was over 10 minutes, right? Because I'm trying to think of anything that's, well, I guess there's some named mobs in some zones that exceed that.
Yeah, I think 30 minutes is reasonable, right?
Yeah.
Like you should be able to plan within a half an hour with your buds.
Yeah. Okay. Dorks31 says, is there any ideas to increase or change the monk low weight AC mitt bonus, or is it just a side idea to work on?
My understanding is that it's incredibly negligible. I don't think I heard anything after that. So basically, if you want to min-max, it's there, but the amount you lose is not significant enough to be concerned about, especially with the number of 100% weight reduction bags that we have.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. The weight reduction bags. Jesus. Ralphie says, any chance EOM bags will get a plat equivalent purchase option? EOMs can easily keep going up to 2,500 each, and that's the only way to obtain those bags.
Yeah, that's correct. So you can farm plat fairly easily, and you can buy EOMs fairly easily. So that is going to stay the way that it is for the time being.
MCX, it says, will Dungeon Finder be useful for leveling a character? Oof.
It depends on the final implementation that we land on, but I'm going to go ahead and say probably not. It'll be good for AA probably, but I believe you're going to need to be level 50 to access it. And that's just for balance reasons.
Yeah. Sorry, answering one for you. Zigzag, is there any feature or quality of life that is on Retribution that's not on THJ that you would like to implement on THJ? If so,
so the only thing that we did on Ret that I could see here at some point is a single server seasonal type thing. And I could see that after hardcore solo self-found and solo's been out for a while. So that would probably be it. I love what we did with seasonal there, and I could see it being very successful here without splitting the community to a new server. But currently, we don't have any plans for that because we've got such a long runway for new things that we're working on. But know that there is a point in time where if we need more development cycles, that we might do some type of in-place seasonal, and it works really, really well. We had great feedback, and I know it would be well received here as well. So that would be the one thing.
okay. Could you do a rotating bonus XP zones that change weekly, or something you pick one or two per an expansion? You kind of answered this earlier, right?
Yep, answered that earlier. But the short thing is, yeah, we eventually will have rotating Zems that'll kind of spice things up for people.
Just got to lock down a system for that, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's figuring out how to implement that system for people who don't have certain expansions unlocked.
Polyvinyl pyrrolidone. Polyvinyl pyrrolidone. Pyrrolidone. You want to say that?
Polyvinyl pyrrolidone.
Okay. All right. Fuck me. I just can't read, guys. I don't know. Do you prefer the rising tide lifts all ships or the crab bucket style of balancing, and why, if I might ask?
Trying to make sure that I understand these colloquialisms the same way that this person does. Style of balancing? So this is the style of balancing that I've seen that works, right? Outliers have to be addressed, whether it's too high or too low. And what happens is that as new heights are reached, what is considered low is changed. So something that I might not consider needing help today might be something that I think needs to be looked at next month. And as we boost that, and then what the best is changes, those things, it's kind of a tide, right? In and out with the tide in terms of what is strongest versus what is weakest and what makes them that way, and then coming up with interesting ways to address those things that kind of keeps it, keeps everything fresh, keeps everything moving. It's the reason that you see, balance passes and cycles in other MMOs. I don't necessarily agree with how some of them do it, but the general gist is you can't have stagnation. Right. And because we're consistently and constantly iterating on these balance changes, I think it will always be fresh, right? Like I will never let something that's too OP be too OP for long. And I will never let something that is underperforming be underperforming for too long.
Boom, boom. Sigh, apologies if this has already been covered. Thoughts on having more spell slots? I feel like I'm constantly swapping spells for different buffs and pets.
So yeah, we gave you 12 off the rip because that's the most that we could. When we figure out how to give you more, that would be a great AA unlock. We would love to give you more if it were possible, but currently it is not.
Nerd Navigator asks, on the topic of incentivizing people going to not use zones, could an idea to give zones that haven't had many mobs killed in them over time steadily increase a bonus in something like Zem rate or even EOM drop rate rather than a randomizer keeping it more organic? Oh, if you want to fucking code that. Ugh.
Yeah, no, nerd. So, fun fact, that's actually something that Kata has brought up before, but we talked about ways that players could manipulate that intentionally, and so we're kind of on the fence on implementing something like that. But yeah, I'm very much open to using play patterns of the community to figure out what they would most enjoy.
It would be really cool, but yeah, like you said, I can already, all you do is you like run a bunch. Well, never mind. I'm not even going to get into it, but yes, there are very easy ways to manipulate that system.
So there's going to be this want to skip the next question. Oh, but you already deleted it. I was going to go for it.
You were?
Yeah, but so it's okay. Since no. So there's something that was mentioned that I think I'll just take an opportunity to discuss something that I've seen on a number of streams recently. We are a community first and foremost, okay? Whether you play here, whether you play on live, whether you play on Quarm or some other EQ emu, the reason that we are all playing these games is because we enjoy it. We derive some type of joy from it, right? And it's important that when you disagree with someone, whether it be within this community or outside of this community, you don't go too far. It's fine to express your opinions, but it's important to remember that we are in this together, right? And we all want the best for each other. And that's important to me. So, yeah.
Polyvinyl. Yeah, Polyvinyl. Are the rumors of the 50 slot bag true or wishful thinking?
What 50 slot bag could you be talking about? Do you think it could be an Easter bag? And do you think it might be measured in dozens? We'll have to find out.
Can you adjust quad spells for like druids so we can hang with Bard?
So just for the record, Mr. Goody is the one that got Denon's nerfed. Just so we're on record.
We have that recorded, and I will make sure that's on my stream for anybody who says Denon's nerfed. It is going to be Aporia. It's going to be just a voice thing that says Mr. Goody got that nerfed. Excellent. Perfect.
I love it.
Will we ever get guild halls or at least guild banks? Again, Polyvinyl.
So I would like to see guild banks, and I would like to see a mode that is a guild only mode. So you could trade within your guild. I think that would be really cool. That's a stretch goal of mine. So Path of Exile does that really well, right? With their solo self-found seasons, you can basically do it guild wide. So kind of what Vicious was looking for in terms of being able to trade on your hardcore character. I think making it a guild wide thing and then interweaving that with seasonal could be really cool, because then you'll have guilds cropping up to help one another. and kind of like, oh, well, like we're doing this and that, and we've farmed this for these people. I just think there's a lot there. So I think guild banks will be coming. Not a huge fan of guild halls, but that could change. So yeah.
Kata, Prio 1. Prio 1.
How limit guild join leave? What? You talk to me like a caveman sometimes. How limit guild join leave? Let's talk about that. Talk about that.
Not here.
All right. Not here.
Love THJ having a blast. I could be wrong or missing something because noob, but is the reason the POK spell vendors are locked behind progression requirements so that flagged individuals can sell those spells for ridiculous amounts in the Bazaar? Puddlefoot 21.
You saw through me. That is the sole reason that that's allowed. It's for the everyday hustler who makes their way to Bazaar for you and your alts, because you don't have pop unlocked yet, but they want you to have those spells and to feed their families. That's why.
It's true. That's actually all of Aporia's static characters. I've seen him. I've seen him go out there and buy those spells off those vendors and then selling them. I'm just saying.
It's literally all me. It's literally all me. Why isn't Easter already on time? Listen, you don't understand. People have been buying my spells. I've had to make so many runs.
I know. You had to walk 15 miles uphill back and forth.
I have tens of plat.
KB Mango 1. Warders. I understand non-classic Beast Lords had to have new warders. Curious of the selection process and why were the Wood Elves changed and sad halflings didn't get Fire Beetle?
Mango, I'll say that was part of the learning process, because there are certain things that have to be done to get something to render in every single zone. And the ones that were selected were ones that were cool, but also low overhead. So I could see, I'm happy where we landed, but it would be cool. There are some more flavorful things we could have done. But don't worry, there's going to be more petamorph wands on the way. So,
Nice. I do like petamorph wands. DJ Wiggly Bits. Can we back-end server architecture? Wait, can the back-end server architecture be described? Is it a clustered version of Axstack?
It is a highly customized, clustered version of Axstack.
Polyvinyl wants to know if we're avoiding his questions because his name is too awesome and easy to pronounce. Never.
I think we've taken so many of your questions that there's no way for that to be true.
Agreed. D's Games TTV. This sounds like more questions, even though I'm pretty sure 2 questions ago you said it was your last. There's a lot of potential options that a player may enjoy for solo self-found, such as retaining account progression so they can level in Lucklin, for example. What solo self-found type options will we have, and could those options be expanded?
So in the beginning, right? So this is all road mapping, right? And trying to avoid scope creep. So there's a lot of things that we could do to all these options and other options that we could give. But what you're getting in the beginning is exactly what's been outlined for solo play, self-found play, and hardcore. So you're not going to have the option in the beginning to retain account progression. because that's simply not part of the initial scope. I'm sure we can figure out ways to give some nuance to that, but between those three options, it really does unlock a ton of replayability without even giving any additional options. So know that we are open to it. We have to draw a line somewhere, right? For when is this ready to launch?
Mm-hmm. So things can be adjusted if they need to be adjusted. However, in urgency of making sure that it all works and comes together in a reasonable amount of time, not really in the span of things right now.
Exactly.
D's games. Nope, that's not the one. That's not the one I wanted. Hi, Aporia. Are there any plans for adjusting or adding some additional Zeb weapons? In its current iteration, the weapon ends up being underwhelming, not even viable for a lot of builds outside of a very specific, looking at Rangers. It would be great to have the weapons balanced in a way that makes the effort feel more rewarding for other comps and builds.
So two things. I disagree that they're underwhelming. The comps that are getting these weapons, it might be underwhelming for those specific comps, but they are incredible. Now, that being said, we have gotten some great feedback from some of the players that are at the cutting edge of getting all of these for themselves and their friends. And I can tell you, we will be adjusting the stats on those artifact weapons, and they will be getting better. Not a lot, but in ways that will be meaningful to more builds. So hopefully that's an answer that you like to hear.
I'm just going to tack on because there was like 10 more questions about Zeb. Are there changes coming to the Zeb fight, and is there an announced or anything you're willing to share as far as a timeline on when that fight might change?
Okay, so some changes went live and didn't make the change log. I meant to DM Kata about it, but something that all of you may not know, and I'll make sure that it goes into this next change log. The Zeb fight, Zeb himself, does not scale as hard as other bosses. That was a change that went in, I think, a week and a half ago. So the more people you bring, it does scale, but it does not scale close to what other bosses do. And yes, that doesn't help. That doesn't help the duo. But there are a couple changes that'll be happening. We're tossing around like the best way to do this because we don't want it to become a joke or a pushover. But we do want it to be a little more accessible. So, and the reason that I don't feel a rush on this right now is because it is literally the capstone fight, right? Like it is the end of the expansion custom content. You know. Well, that's an interesting take. So let me address that. Why does the best in slot weapon need to be doable? Why does the best in slot weapon need to be doable? So I guess what I'm saying is this content is custom, right? That's the reason people play MMOs. You know, most people do play for the pixels, but what I've found is that more people leave because they don't have something to chase after than people who get everything and are done, right? So I would argue that having something to shoot for, having something that you can, you know, like, man, I really want to be able to do this. That's an important thing. And in terms of, well, this server is advertised as doable, so that's the expectation. No. I've said basically every week and have gone back and clarified in posts that are almost 6 months old. This is a solo progression server. You can unlock every single expansion by yourself. And to that end, Planes of Power, if you can clear all of Tier 2, you will be able to unlock GOD, possibly some of Tier 3, but it will be soloable. Capstone content, so content that you expect to find in an expansion, that will be soloable/duoable. Custom content that we create it the way we want to and for different reasons. There is plenty of content to do for the solo player. There's plenty of content to do for the duo. Having a single fight that is challenging, that those who want to play with more than 2 people enjoy, is a good thing. Now, I will openly admit that Zeb is too difficult or more difficult than where I want it to land. Okay? It is more difficult than where I want it to land, and it will be changed. However, we're actively working on so many things for the greater population. After the Easter event, we've got solo self-found hardcore. After that, we have Dungeon Finder. All of that stuff is for literally everyone, right? So, 99.99% of the content is for everyone.
All right. So hopefully we can put that one to bed. T. Weiler says, it was mentioned in a previous Q&A that solo self-found will not include your vet AA bonus. Is that still the plan?
That is indeed the plan. Solo self-found should have no benefit or bonus from your account.
Foliax, hi boss. Any plans for a Bane Strike ability or Hunter bonus like live? Also, is the Baconator title in THJ implemented? I'm dreaming of the pig pits by the arena at this point.
I'll be honest, I haven't really thought about Bane Strike. We have, so since we have these titles baked in to the types of mobs that you kill, I am not opposed to having some type of bonus based on those titles. That is actually a really good idea because of how Kata implemented them. That could be cool. Yeah, that would work well with the hunter system. Maybe we'll put a little pin in that one. I think that's a cool idea.
Xenophile says, is there any plans to change time for those that have cleared it? The beginning of the zone is a big time slog.
I am glad you brought that up. So when we were initially planning time, we actually already have a way on test for you to skip phase 1 through 3. This is the first time that I'm talking about this. There will be a way to skip phase 1 through 3. It will require certain things, but you will be able to skip phase 1 through 3.
Ooh. Can I ask for expanding questions?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Is it going to be like you have to get these things and then you skip it one time? Or is it going to be you get these things and then you skip it every time on that character? Or is it more of an account unlock?
These are things that will need to be consumed
anytime you want to skip phase 1 to 3.
There you go.
Yes.
Okay. If you could be any warship from Kentai Collection, who would you be and why?
I feel like my nerdhood is being assaulted, and I don't like it. I rarely encounter a situation
Here's
where I
to
don't get
new
the reference, and
beginnings.
now I'm upset. I'm going to look this up. I don't know what that is.
Okay.
I don't know what that is, but I'm going to look it up.
We're going to put a pin in that one. Polyvinyl back again. Can solo self-found characters join guilds? I ask because guilds currently are basically just chat rooms.
Yes. Yes, they can. Oh, you know, that's a good question because we are going to be doing guild banks are going to be coming, and I'll have a discussion with Kata around guilds and solo self-found.
Okay. C. Goodman 381. The solo self-found hardcore fleeting quiver question. Okay, so this is like the next 3 questions actually, or like there's 3 in here. So when you responded, I think maybe you tripped up on your wording a little bit. You told people that if they're solo self-found to make an alt in order to craft the quiver.
I did not realize that was a
yeah.
I didn't realize that was a solo self-found question. That's on me. I thought that someone was just really excited about the fleeting quiver. So that's a good question. How do you handle that during solo self-found? Yeah, I guess you would need to take an enchanter and then drop the enchanter later on.
Oh. Wow. So you can switch your classes on hardcore and solo self-found as well.
You can definitely do it on solo self-found. Not sure about hardcore.
Interesting. Okay, so there's like 3 questions related to that, and I'm just gonna pop those. Will there be different colored name tags for those characters? Demodius.
Yes, there will be different colored character name tags for those characters, though I don't know how we're handling the stacking of them. I don't know how we're so different colored name tags will be available. I don't know how the stacking. So like if we made hardcore like I don't know, like a reddish, but we had solo self-found as some off green. I don't really know.
That's cool though. That makes me happy though. To some extent, brown names, green names, red names, brown names. That makes me excited. I think that there's a lot that can be done with that. That could be kind of fun. Let us see here. Vengeful Timus. I'm not sure if this has already been answered, but will Dungeon Q be in self-found mode? Can I join people? Can I roll for loot? Okay.
I mean,
These are good ones. What I think you guys should do, these ones that like are like background programming questions, these are definitely questions that would probably be better suited to submit them to the like the Discords for both myself and Variety Void, so that in the future there may be some like discussions that need to happen between Kata and Aporia to like nail down really where they want it to land, or if it's even possible, and how that might look or how that might interact with other mechanics in the game. And so if
I could say,
go ahead.
Sorry, I needed a chance to think through that. So I could say that right now, without like working through anything, you would only be able to queue for them solo, because that's an easy thing to lock down. But we can definitely talk about what that looks like and see how we could lock that down.
I like that. He's a good. He's a good. Follow-up question from Fane175 regarding DDD. Since Broken Sug mentioned it, the problem is other nukes aren't worth casting. Nerfing DDD for a lot of builds doesn't actually make those other nukes suddenly worth casting without the same kind of change. Starin having a mana cost added to allow for sympathetic strike proc would be an amazing step at curtailing DDD, while giving the Bard identity another method that feels similar outside of life tap. Other nukes are too long cast time.
Well, I mean, we have Bard dots. Yeah. I don't know. I'll take that as a suggestion. Not opposed, but I'll take that as a suggestion.
Yeah. It's a really hard thing because just like the dots and stuff now that like people are using dots to like rat-a-tat-a prismatic strikes. Like I don't think it's as easy as just like this thing works. So good question. Good recommendation. Let's see here. Wizthane Q, if I end up being Quarm with my Rogue Monk Ranger, will I get a special name? Wonder for all us weird classes. If I end up beating Quarm, I'm guessing. Rogue Monk Ranger.
I would be way more impressed if you ended up being Quarm, but
I would as well. Maybe you'd get the Quarm
fine.
title.
So, Wiz, I feel that. I would love if there was a reasonable way for us to do something like that. But unfortunately, it's really not feasible, right? There's like 560 different combinations, and determining which one gets which title and why, it's just kind of messy. So
Kata caught on. Why not just segregate markets for hardcore seasons if we wanted to do that?
Well, Kata, for the same reason that you've been DMing me, because we probably shouldn't talk about those things, especially after the many conversations that we had.
All right, here. I'll make Kata feel better. What's your favorite color?
See, now there's a Kata question that I can take. All lowercase, no punctuation, and the O is a 9. So, my favorite color currently, I don't even know what the name of it is, but it's like a light blue, almost green, light blue green. It's somewhere in there. Anyways, it reminds me of the ocean, and it's beautiful.
Kata said he's going to train me, so I'm just curious if he means like a red room kind of training, or like what are we talking? Is there a ball gag involved?
I kind of faded out.
Yeah. One Morning Coffee says, thanks again for showing up as always. Hope you enjoy your weekend.
Oh, thanks, y'all. I hope you do too. I'll be honest, I'm a little exhausted. That's 2.5 hours of great questions.
You freaking so many questions. Did you look this up? Do you have an answer to the amazing?
Go do the other two. I'll look it up right now.
Do the other two?
Oh, no. Maybe don't do the other two. Hold on. My brain is just 2.5. You know what? This is good. It looks like 2 hours really is my my limit.
It's actually, I would argue, and I appreciate that you do spend this amount of time in here, but honestly, I do think that in the future, like I've been testing this out. I don't know if you noticed last time I actually cut this off, but I actually cut it off a little later. I think there's like a finite time and number of questions that have been submitted that cuts down a little bit better. And it's no disrespect to chat or the community or anything like that. But to some extent, like if I wouldn't have cut this off when I did, you'd easily have another hour and a half minimum here answering more questions. And that's like a pretty insane amount of time to do those things. So I may be like reaching out to you in the future to talk to you about a maybe a little bit better of a system for that, so that we can just like outline the expectation to other people up front as well, so that they know, like, listen, we're going to take on questions until this point. If the questions aren't in until this point, then that's that.
No, I love that. I absolutely love that. But on that note, thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks for interacting. Thanks for being a part. I wouldn't invest this kind of time if it weren't for you guys. So thank you.
We need a way to Reddit style upvote questions submitted before the stream starts. Top X amounts gets asked. I mean,
side note about Reddit, there's over 1,500 people on our subreddit now, and like most people don't even know the subreddit exists. Kind of crazy, and it's been pretty active. So feel free to check that out if you haven't. We have it feeding Discord. So
you're in charge of the Reddit, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'll talk to you about something else later too then. I tend to avoid Reddit like the plague. You and me both. I actually had to create a Reddit account just for THJ. Funny. Can we get a Reddit link in here? Yeah, you sure can. Hold on. Actually, there's one. If you are in the THJ Discord too, there's a whole channel actually dedicated to it. Where are we? THJ subreddit. Boom.
So I'll say this. I completely understand the feelings about Reddit and people that have had negative experiences there. But I have to say, so the 3 people that are in charge of Reddit, and I misspoke. I don't actually own the sub or am the lead on it, but the people who we have there, they keep it really nice. They do and not for nothing, the community in general is very supportive, quick to have each other's back. I honestly, I really enjoy, like, I'll pop in there probably every other day just to see what's going on and what people are talking about. And it's been a wildly different experience that I've had in most subreddits. So cheers and shout out to all the people that are making that happen too.
Hell yeah, guys. Listen, there's a lot of people who had a lot of opinions and stuff tonight. And what I would ask you and what I would put out there more than anything is, you don't necessarily have to agree with everything that's said. You don't have to necessarily agree with everything that's going on. Just try to remember to make sure we keep things civil and respectful. People are taking time to be here. People are taking time to answer questions. People are taking time to put themselves out there. And while I don't think that anybody was really like jumping over that line or anything, I just think it's really important to realize, like, this is not something that you typically see of devs, period, that they take the time to do this type of thing, especially on a weekly basis. It's kind of unheard of. And this is not something like Apori is even putting me up to saying or anything like that. Like, this is merely this is me saying, hey guys, like, I really appreciate Aporia coming to my stream every other week. I know Variety Void really appreciates Aporia and Kata coming into his stream every other week. This is really, truly an amazing thing that they make themselves available to the community. They take your feedback, and even some of the stuff, I can't tell you how many times like they've answered a question and then they've gone back later and like looked at some things and been like, you know, I've really thought about this again. And, you know, maybe they take perspective. You know, it can be a very wild thing to be put on the spot by 200 people all at once. So just remember, you know, above all else, we're all in love with the THJ server. We all came here and enjoy this stuff, and we're all going to keep enjoying and loving all this great content that they continue to put out.